Welcome back to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Up. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher, a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. The purpose of this podcast is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today we're doing that with an expert guest on burnout. And so we are exploring what burnout is and what you can do to either prevent it or to overcome it. So we have a special guest, Kathy Ozakovic, who's a holistic health practitioner. She is a degree qualified dietitian, and she shares her holistic approach to what burnout is, understanding it from a mind, body, soul, spiritual perspective, and what you can do about it from a mind, body, soul, spiritual perspective. So without much further ado, I'd love to welcome you into the episode and discussion I'm having with Kathy Ozakovic. Welcome back, Kathy, on the Me and My Health Up podcast. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I'm very well. I'm really excited about today's topic.
So am I. And yes, we're just talking previously before the recording that you are the record holder for the most guest visits to the Me and My Health Up podcast. So well done on helping me accomplish this milestone.
Thank you for providing a platform for me to talk. And I was saying, even just reflecting on the topics we've talked about, it's such a beautiful journey of evolution in my own expansion as well. So thank you.
It is. And I think it's really insightful and helpful to the listeners to see that evolution and growth of someone through, your being so raw and open. We've touched on some very sensitive topics in terms of the previous, such as your breast implants and explants, and you're sharing your story about that, your relationships and how it impacted your thyroid. And then your area of expertise, or certainly around dietetics, is, around gut health. And so we've really taken the listeners on your journey, personal journey, but as you've just mentioned, that growth story as well.
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
You're welcome. And so this topic is exciting because it's very topical. Corporates, there's a lot of research out there amongst the corporates saying their employees are experiencing burnout at higher rates than ever. And this has come about as, there's obviously a combination of things, but COVID didn't help, and it's probably exacerbated or sped up or, amplified it in some way. So really keen to explore this topic of burnout, which you're an expert in. So let's start with what is burnout, just to bring the listeners up to speed so that they can understand if they're experiencing it or know of someone experiencing it.
Yeah, I love this, and I love just diving into language itself when we talk about burnout. And when I was developing the content for how to heal from and prevent burnout, I really delved into what are people making it mean? That word, burnout, it actually became associated with human burnout around 1975. And there was 3 components to this burnout. The 3 components were emotional exhaustion, it was compassion fatigue, and a decreased sense of accomplishment. So this was the first definition. And then a newer definition came out in the 2000s, and my brain starts to overlap things and compare things, and really we're just changing the language a little bit. So the 3 types of burnout we talk about today is overload, neglect, and under-challenged. And when I was going through this and comparing it to my, what I call New Fit Wellness Fractal or Embodiment Fractal, it's the holistic approach that I take with all my clients. And there's more components to it than just mind, body, spirit, emotion, but that's the main triangle that I use. And I was looking at burnout from this holistic perspective, and I was like, it's missing something, right? So I compared the 3 components. We've got overload, too much, emotional exhaustion. We've got under-challenged, a decreased sense of accomplishment, but I've also related this to a depletion. And one of the phrases that I came across was functional freeze, and I'll explain what I mean by functional freeze later. And then there's this neglect or compassion fatigue. We can be neglecting ourselves or we can be neglected by others. So there's really 2 components to that. So we have components of mindset, body, the physical body, the biological aspect of things, emotion, but there's no mention of the spiritual burnout that we also may experience. So this is how I've come to actually adding in a fourth component to the definition of burnout. And I haven't given it a name. So if you have any ideas, let me know what to call this fourth element of spiritual burnout. Maybe that's just it. But I'll unpack what I mean by that too. But really, looking at burnout as a definition, if we consider not the human body, but just an electrical appliance, when does an electrical appliance burn out? When it's overheated. And the thing with the human body is we have a nervous system that sends electrical signals. So we are partially electrical as well. So when we overheat, when we overdo it, we drive ourselves to burnout.
Yeah, so I was just thinking on that spiritual side of things, and also advocate for the listeners to comment and put their feedback into what Kathy could potentially call this fourth component. So in terms of when I think spirit, I'm thinking, the ether, the fabric that is within all of us and connects all of us. It's there's so many different terms of that. There's scalar. I've heard of scalar. Yeah. So what is it in the context of burnout? Like for me, there's a sense there's energy there, and I'm just trying to conceptualize.
Right on. Like this is exactly what I was thinking, and I've got a whiteboard here because I'm a very visual person, and it'll help me stay on topic as well. So what I was talking about was mind, body, spirit, emotion aspects of burnout. And with this spiritual aspect of burnout, exactly what you said there, there is this energetic component to us. We have this ether, esoteric etheric body, which is beyond the physical. And we're going right into it now. We'll come back to the more scientific aspects of burnout, but beyond the physical, we have an etheric body and energetic body, and we interact with other bodies, other energetic bodies. And this is also, think about codependent relationships, think about narcissistic relationships, which I talked about last time. Think about energy vampires. This is kind of the archetype of that narcissistic person, is an energy vampire where they're sucking our energy, and this is going to lead to burnout. So really there's this component of codependency, enmeshment, draining, also upholding masks. Think about the feminine and the masculine energies. So I don't know the exact stats, but over 90% of women are innately feminine. But when we go into the corporate environment, we're putting on our masculine hat and we're acting very structure, routine, achievements. These are masculine traits. But then we need to know how to just drop into our natural femininity again. Otherwise, upholding that mask for too long is going to lead to burnout. So there's also, as you mentioned, just chakra systems, blocked energy flow. This is all part of that spiritual burnout. And I think that a very important component of that is our connection with God, or our connection with spirit, the universe, call it what you want. Having that clear connection as well to help us recognize what is going on around us too. Is that making sense?
It does. It's starting to come together, and I'll continue to think about it and ponder it, and hopefully come up with something useful for you in terms of a terminology to describe that fourth dimension. So in terms of the other three dimensions, what should people be? I mean, you've mentioned a few things that could really impact someone in terms of running low on energy. And, you had the analogy of the electric, plugging something in and charging up. And I'm thinking, there's that depletion. So we've mentioned that you can be in a relationships that are really depleting your energy and sapping the life out of you. So there's that other component, which is plugging in back into the wall and re-energizing and rejuvenating. And like, what can someone do if they're feeling so depleted, and to really pick up that, I guess, energy, across all those different dimensions?
Yeah, I love this. I want to put a bow tie on the spiritual aspect in terms of how do we heal from spiritual burnout. So if we are energetically drained with our spirit, healing from this is actually going to require some elemental purification. This is a strategy that I've learned through breathwork, and it's working with the elements, because remember, we're working with this body beyond the physical body. So think the elements are water. So working with water could be ocean swims, showers, baths, working with air through, for example, breath work, working with fire with candles, or having some of our own spiritual fire ceremonies by the beach, burning some journal pages, working with earth by grounding. And we know, again, all of these actually have scientific background. You know about grounding or earthing, walking barefoot actually reduces inflammation, and it's actually going to help our spirit also re-energize. And then we also have the element of ether and sound healing. And there is some absolutely beautiful research coming out about sound healing and vibration and how it actually affects our cells and helps us heal. So those are the things that will help us heal from spiritual burnout. In terms of preventing it, we need to think about what got us here in the first place. And this is to do with any aspect of burnout, any type. You might be experiencing not just in the spiritual realm. You might be experiencing in the emotional realm, in the mindset realm, maybe all of them, and maybe two of them are predominant. So it's really important to think, what got me here in the first place? What in me allowed me to take myself to burnout? Why didn't I take the foot off the accelerator? Why didn't I rest, right? So in terms of spiritual burnout, remember I mentioned energy vampires, enmeshment. So to prevent, we want strong boundaries. We want to be able to bend and flex these boundaries as necessary, but we're going to want to create that barrier between ourselves and our body beyond the physical body, our aura, our ether, and another person. We need to be able to recognize that. These concepts I really want to acknowledge. I've read Quantum Healing by Deepak Chopra was a really big influence, as well as the breathwork journey that I took myself last year when I went to Bali with Karina Kalila.
Wow. So let's explore a bit of how someone can utilize breathwork, given that, it's a recent addition to your toolkit.
I'm getting really excited. It is also part of the mindset side of things, but also body, also emotion. So breathwork actually fits everywhere, and just like the element of air, it gets everywhere, right? And it is one of the strategies that I list as helping us heal in terms of our mindset, but it's also one of the strategies and one of the 6 pillars to wellness that I talk about for the physical body healing. And in the book Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, they actually do mention breathwork as a method of completing the stress cycle, which is all about the emotional burnout that we're experiencing. So breathwork, how do I explain this? There are different types of breathwork. When I'm talking about breathwork, I'm talking about the breathwork journey. So the breathwork journey is also about delving into our unconscious, into our patterns of behavior, the habits that we've created, and the limiting beliefs, the belief systems that we hold within us that actually drive our behaviors. So we're also at the same time, and this is why its sessions are actually 2 hours, because there is spiritual psychology or wellness coaching to it as well that helps us unpack what we've made certain events in our life mean. Because as we, especially in our formative years, as we're looking at the outside world, we're creating meanings. We are forming our principles of life. We're listening to our adults around us, and if they say, money doesn't grow on trees, we take that as truth, and suddenly we actually believe that it's really hard to get to money, or that there's never enough. And that's a really simple one, but we also make these beliefs in terms of relationships, our health, our relationship with money, friendships, a whole lot of things. And that's actually driving our behaviors and our patterns. Now, breath work, what has been shown is that our breath rate is related to our brain waves and our thoughts. They're all interrelated. So our breath rate, our thoughts, and our brain waves. In our everyday life, we're operating at beta brain waves. So we are conscious, we are alert, we are thinking. This is a very fast brain wave. And I want you to think of it as TV static. If you're old enough and listening to this, there was a time when our TVs used to be buzzing with static. This is what we're operating on every day when we're just awake and having these conversations. Our brainwaves are fast. Our thoughts are fast. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. And our breath rate tends to be fast as well because we're wired to keep going, especially nowadays in this fast-paced world. Now, this also means that the space between our thoughts is very small. Remember, the static and the brain waves are of very high frequency. What happens as we slow our breath rate is amazing. We slow our breath rate. It increases the distance between thoughts. It increases the distance between brain waves, so they start to go a little bit more spaced out. And it gives us space. It literally gives us space to just be. And we fall into alpha brain waves, which is meditation state, relaxation. We cannot heal when we are in constant overdrive. We can only heal when we're fully relaxed. Constant overdrive is a state of tension. It's the sympathetic nervous system. It's the fight or flight response. This is now physiology and the body and biology. When we slow down and we're relaxed, we're going into the parasympathetic nervous system. So from beta, we go into alpha. From alpha, we can go down into delta and then theta. Alpha is our meditation state. Theta is visualization and dreaming. And theta, all the way down, is deep restoration, deep sleep. Breathwork helps us get down there. So that if we come back to the static picture, we're clearing up the picture. So we go from this highly buzzing static TV to suddenly we see a clear picture. And this is where a lot of people, when they come out of breathwork journeys and doing breathwork, all of a sudden they're like, I know what to do next. I know my next steps. I can clearly see where I'm going. Is that making sense?
Totally. It really does. And I can see how it's helping people re-energize as well. Just it's essentially slowing them down and getting them to think about their next action as opposed to being on that autopilot, not really thinking, they're just doing, they're just going from one, in that, as you said, that highly beta wave state. There's just this, tick this, do this, next. And it's like this autopilot. Whereas when
that autopilot that you just mentioned, that's the functional freeze I wanted to talk about.
Right. Okay.
The functional freeze, the autopilot, the just doing without the being. Yeah. We are human beings. There is a spiritual and a physical aspect to us, right? Science and spirituality. There's this real physical body that we need to look after, but there's also that spiritual being there. Autopilot, the functional freeze, stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Now, we know that when we are in sympathetic, we're not using our parasympathetic system, which is our rest and digest, our tend and befriend, calm and connect, which is responsible for our thyroid function, reproductive function, immune system, and digestive system. So when we are in this functional freeze of just doing, constantly rushing, wired into sympathetic, not using those parasympathetic systems, we start to see the breakdowns that happen when we're running towards burnout. We're using up the fuel. What's going to happen to a car when the oil in the water is used up? Things are going to start to break down. We're leading to that overheating. So we start getting digestive issues. We start getting infertility issues. We start having an overactive or underactive thyroid. We start getting hives. It can manifest in different ways. It can show in different ways depending on your genetics, depending on your family history. Like this is going to show, it's an insight into your lineage patterns of behavior. And it's also a clue into the healing journey.
That's terrific insight. And certainly you gave the listeners a great understanding of how it manifests and to make sure that they look into why it's happening to them and to really understand that root cause. And that way, then it can be addressed and you can prevent it. So what's your top tips for ultimately, we'll cover both, right? Ultimately to drive the prevention side of things so that you don't slip into this state of burnout. And if you're feeling that you're on the tipping point or you are feeling really burnt out and struggling, then how to climb out of it. So if you could just sort of navigate that prevention and recovery. Yeah.
So when it comes to the mindset side of things, if you are really struggling with that compassion fatigue, realizing that nothing I do matters, it doesn't make a difference, you start to notice the language that you're using. And this, I've personally moved through every aspect of burnout and seen it. And one thing I really want to highlight with burnout is that the face of burnout will change. As you change, as you evolve, as your circumstances change, as your environment changes, it will look differently, it will sound differently, it will feel differently, even across the mind, body, spirit, emotion aspects. For example, when previously I was going through this mindset burnout, I kept telling myself, I need to do this. I have to do this. They're relying on me. I was dragging myself. It was real language of necessity rather than possibility. Now I really look after my mindset and make sure that I'm choosing those thoughts, because you are not your thoughts. Remember, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. You get to choose what thoughts you want to keep. So now really speaking from that possibility, I get to do this. This is leading me to what I want. And not lying to myself. If something's not leading me to what I want, I'm being honest with myself, Kathy, is this taking you towards what you want or taking you away from what you want? That's going to help prevent burnout. This is taking a lot of coaching, Anthony. Self-coaching and coaching. Like, I have coaches that help me that have, over the last 3 years, really helped me grow in this as well. Heal from and prevent burnout over the last 3 years. So my top tips is really to heal. Coaching, get a good coach that's going to help you take ownership, accountability, and radical responsibility of your current situation and help you move out of it and help you understand that you have choices, that you are making these choices, and that you can change the choices. Anything that you are not changing, you are choosing. And very often I want to acknowledge that we can feel stuck. We can feel like we have no choice. We can feel like we need to and have to. But if we really expand our thinking and quiet the noise with breath work, allow that picture to really become clear, we start to see more options and we start to slowly climb out of it. And then in terms of prevention, thinking about your purpose and your passion. The more passionate you are, the more you ignite that flame back, the more you align with your purpose of what you really want and you feel like you're walking towards that. What burnout? The only burnout you're going to have to worry about now is the body, because your mind is so strong and the body will not do what the mind does not tell it to do. So I really think that getting your mindset right is crucial. And I always say we got to nail the mindset first before you can see the results that you want in your body, because I work with people in terms of health and performance as well. So that is mindset. Moving on to the body, I was talking about sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. Being burnt out physically is a real thing. I want to acknowledge that when you are burnt out, your nervous system is cooked and you are going to need to rest and replenish. Now, how you rest and replenish will make a difference. And there will probably be a period of being a starfish where you cannot move much. And it's being honest with yourself. Is this dragging on? Am I actually helping my body heal here? Do I need another day of being a starfish because I've really overdone it? Or is it time to go for that walk? Is it time to nourish my body? Coming back to the 6 pillars to wellness that I talk about: nutrition, movement, sleep, optimizing the stress response, light therapy, and mindset or spirituality. These 6 pillars actually help us replenish, rejuvenate our body. And also the other aspect of body, or this physical burnout, is dopamine depletion. When we are burnt out and when we have this sense of under accomplishment, it's also because we're in a pit. Dopamine is the go get it, the drive molecule, the reward molecule. So when we achieve something, we get a hit of dopamine, but then we actually drop below baseline and we're in a pit. So on a graph, that would look like we've achieved something, we get a hit, and then we go back down. So this line is our baseline dopamine level. So up here, we get a hit of dopamine, and down here, we're in the pit. That's burnout. The only way to get back to our baseline is actually to wait it out and replenish it with good habits. The nutrition, the movement, the sleep, the light therapy, and also breathwork. Non-sleep deep rest, or yoga nidra, and it's a state in breathwork that we've called transformational sleep, I think we ended up calling it, because we really noticed that people go into this yoga nidra state or non-sleep deep rest, which has actually been shown to replenish dopamine levels up to 60% back to baseline. And what are we doing? We are actually replenishing the nervous system, that parasympathetic nervous system. Cold exposure therapy as well is another method that helps us replenish those dopamine stores back to baseline. So in terms of healing, it really is rest and replenishment. In terms of preventing burnout, getting your foot off the accelerator, think about the kind of lifestyle habits and behaviors that you need to implement. Rest in terms of retreating. So even that word retreat, right? We go on retreats. Again, I'm a language person and I'm like retreat. Retreat is also a word that we use when we are at war, and retreat from enemy forces. Why do you retreat from enemy forces? To gain more energy and time, to be more strategic. You've not given up. You're just retreating to protect yourself. We need to learn when to retreat. And everybody's going to be different. Some people, personally, every 6 weeks, I need 3 days off. Some people, maybe every 2 months, they'll need 3 days off. Maybe every 3-4 months, they'll need a week off, especially in the entrepreneurial kind of side of things here. You know, for the regular 9-to-5 worker, we've got the weekends, but how are you retreating on these weekends? And also then thinking about quarter, yearly, like planning it, mapping it out. Where are you taking those breaks? And through trial and error and correction, you will learn what is right for you. And again, it will change. All of a sudden you're pregnant, all of a sudden you have kids, all of a sudden everything is moving around. Having awareness and tracking builds awareness, and having a coach to talk about these things really helps to any inkling of burnout that's coming, because we all have blind spots. Okay, so it's a lifestyle, having pit stops. That Formula One car, it doesn't have to stop. You know, when they stop aside for a little break, that pit stop, it can keep going, but it's a strategic pit stop so that it doesn't break down in the future. That's what we need to learn to do. Bodybuilders, they have deload weeks where they are not pushing progressive overload. They're actually lifting 50% or less of what they can. Athletes have off seasons. They're still taking care of their body, right? Think about the habits that they use during an off season. They're still nourishing their body. It's not about being a starfish throughout the whole time, although maybe they have a day or two of being a starfish as well. So I really want to highlight how holistic this approach that I'm talking about is, and how it does have multiple components to it. And there's a lot of thought put behind it.
Absolutely. It's very comprehensive and very thorough in terms of, covering all aspects of health and well-being. So how can the listeners best connect with you if they're feeling that they could deal with a bit of support in this area?
The best way to reach out to me is via Instagram or Facebook, Kathy Ozakovic. I'm the one and only with that name. I'm very lucky. You can send me a direct message, reach out to me, send me an email. New Fit Wellness. I didn't cover the aspect of emotional burnout today, but I do want to highlight, like I said, Emily and Amelia Nagoski have a beautiful book, Burnout. It's all about completing the stress cycle. Emotions only last 90 seconds. Anything after that is a feeling that we hold on to. Processing emotions is a skill, and we are not taught emotional hygiene. So this also has it has its elements that we've not been taught. And everything that I talked about today has come together over 2 years of my own personal research and readings, really acknowledging the people that are doing so much work in this area. And I'll be presenting more and bringing these workshops to help people learn, because I want to help people heal from and prevent burnout, understand themselves, because ultimately it's about know thyself so that you can heal thyself and create a healthy self.
Absolutely. And you can sense the passion that you have for helping others and wanting them to understand what's going to serve them, what's not, what's going to set them back and how to recover. And so it's great that you're sharing the latest insights as you go along your journey. You're constantly sharing with others and bringing them along the journey with you. So really appreciate you putting aside the time, coming in and sharing your wisdom once again. To the listeners, thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Up. For those that you know out there that could really benefit from Kathy's insights, please share it with others. Would love to get the word out there and to help as many people as possible. And until next time, continue to health up. Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand me&my Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. Me&my Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, me&my Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of me&my Health Up.